Hi, would you know how to spot OCD contamination in children? Sadly, I didn't, and that's what resulted in my own child's OCD becoming an awful lot worse before we identified it, and it ended up controlling not just my daughter, but the whole family. So here are 5 telltale signs that can be an indicator that a child is suffering from contamination OCD. Number 1, and probably this is the most obvious one, is if they're washing their hands or hand sanitising or wiping surfaces down more often than normal. Now you could think to yourself, well, aren't a lot of children doing that, especially during the current climate when that's when we're being told to do. But the difference you'll notice when a child has got contamination OCD, rather than just doing it naturally, is they will do it over and over again. They will look extremely anxious and they won't be able to resume normal activities because this thought will keep playing and playing in their mind that they're going to become unsafe or uncontaminated, and they just need to keep doing these things over and over again. Number 2 is if you're noticing them taking longer to do something, things like showering or changing their clothes. This can be an indicator that they're carrying out rituals while doing these activities in the fear that they might become contaminated. Number 3, a telltale sign of contamination OCD is if a child is continuously late. Because as you can imagine, when they're doing these exhausting rituals or compulsions as they're called, over and over again, they can be absolutely exhausting to the point that they can quite often pull out of an event altogether because they just feel too emotionally and physically drained to actually leave the house. All right, number 4 then is if you can see them having OCD meltdowns. Now again, there's a big difference between a meltdown and just somebody becoming a bit anxious. With a meltdown, it will usually be because another member of the family is refusing to carry out rituals, and it makes the child feel as though they or others are going to be in danger of contamination through people not conforming and complying and doing these rituals with them. So if you find that they're having a really big meltdown because of somebody not following a routine that they're following, that's another big sign that they could be having a suffering with contamination OCD. And the final point is if they're avoiding going places or having people around. Again, contamination OCD, which is a subtype of any sort of OCD, can leave the family feeling very isolated because often the sufferer will get so anxious they won't want to leave the house, they won't want others leaving the house, and they won't want anybody visiting. And then the consequence sometimes of everybody going out together can be that they won't feel happy unless you too carry out these rituals before entering the house again. Things like wiping yourself down or having to have an immediate shower or change your clothes. So they can be just some of the challenges and some of the telltale signs that could indicate that a child is suffering from contamination OCD. Now, as a result of my own daughter having contamination OCD issues, I now write my Mind Monsters books. They're aimed for children 5 to 8 years old, and each book that I write has got a slightly different message to help children and also to help parents and teachers to help support children as they confront this OCD, the intrusive thoughts and actions. All right, so my first book, Hank the Hungry Monster, depicts Hank as OCD, and this one actually teaches children how to confide in others, in this case it's in a teacher, and how to get children to speak up to the intrusive thoughts. The second book in my Mind Monster series sees Hank return, and he's got a different victim this time, and this one involves counting, so more thought OCD. And then I created Trixie the Treat Monster then, because what Trixie does is deliver a strategy that worked for us as a family when we were helping our own daughter to combat contamination OCD, but it can be applied to any sort of OCD. And that is how to replace an intrusive thought with a more pleasant thought instead, and how to get children on board with therapy easier by offering a reward. In this particular book, the reward offered is a slice of pizza. And again, it shows the importance of confiding in others to help them through their issues with OCD. In this case, this young lad, he confided in his best friend. Alright, so you can actually see more about my mind monsters. I've also got some free downloadable stuff on my website as well. You're very welcome to download. My website is www.themindmonsters.co.uk. And if you live in the UK and you actually purchase my books direct from my website, I actually send you a free bookmark, and I personally sign the book for you or your child as well. But that's only available within the UK. But for anybody out in the UK who prefers Amazon or Waterstones or the Book Depository or any other favourite book retailer you may have, my book will be available through those outlets as well. Just want to end by saying I'm actually donating 50% of any profits made from my book to CAMS, which is Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services. It's as a way of paying back for all the wonderful help they gave us so that our daughter could resume a somewhat normal life, and also so they can help more children. Alright, so as I said, be very grateful for any support you can give, whether it's to buy one for your own child, tell other people about my book so that other people are aware that I offer help for OCD in children through my books. And another way you can just donate it to a school or a library, but any way you can support me, I'd be incredibly grateful. So I say that's the end of my 5 tips today on how to spot contamination OCD in children. Hope it's helped. If it has, please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos I make on contamination OCD. And please feel free to comment and like on my video. It would mean the world to me.